Good morning, students. Unit 3 Mechanical Properties. The first mechanical property we are going to discuss is uniaxial tensile strength. Now we will see the first mechanical property, uniaxial tensile strength. Strength is the ability of the material to withstand the load. Uniaxial tensile means the force which is going to be applied is along unidirectional. Uni means single directional, that is either in x-axis or y-axis or z-axis. Tensile force is one which is going to elongate or stretch the material. So this tensile strength is measured with the help of ultimate tensile testing machine, which is shortly referred as UTM. So this is the tensile testing machine. You have a machine dial which is going to indicate the amount of load applied to the material. So you have two levers, okay, one to load the material, another lever is to relieve the load, that is unload the material. The specimen whose strength has to be tested is placed between the two clamps which is used to hold the specimen. So the arrangement of ultimate tensile testing machine is shown here. You have a base or the actuator, a table above which the strength testing machine is placed. You have two crossheads, the upper crosshead and the lower crosshead. The upper crosshead is fixed, whereas the lower is a movable. And you have the column to hold the specimen. We have a clamp, upper clamp and lower clamp. Now a force is going to be applied such that stretching of material takes place. What is the basic principle behind ultimate testing machine? Let us consider a rectangular specimen of original length L0 and the circular area of cross-section or rectangular area of cross-section is A0. The original length L0 is marked and positioned and it's called the gauge mark or gauge length. With this as reference, how much the material is going to elongate it is calculated or measured. When a tensile force F is applied along unidirectional, that is along y-axis, elongation of the specimen takes place. So from the original length L0, it goes to a higher length capital L. Because of elongation, the area of cross-sectional area is reduces from A0 to A. So, when a tensile force acts, the length elongates and the area reduces. So, this is the principle. When a uniaxial force is applied, the length elongates to L and the cross-sectional area reduces from A0 to A until fracture occurs. The applied load as a function of change in length is recorded to determine the stress-strain relationship. What is the procedure or the mechanisms involved when a tensile force F acts on the specimen? First, measure the original length or the gauge length L0 of the specimen. When a known load is applied, a tensile force F acts outward. As a result, elongation of the specimen takes place uniformly. When the load is increased, the specimen elongates more with reductions in the cross-sectional area. With further increase in the load, at a particular point, necking begins. That is, the material loses its stability and deforms plastically. And this is called plastic instability. On further increase in load, the entire force is concentrated at the neck point, so a fracture occurs. That is, the material breaks into two segments. Finally, the elongated length delta L is measured. From the testing machine, two parameters are measured. The first parameter is the applied load, which gives you the amount of tensile force capital F applied. The second parameter is the change in length or the elongation length delta L. The load is recorded from the real-time dial machine, which is the load cell. The change in length is recorded from the extensometer, which is again attached to the instrument. From these two parameters, the stress-strain relation curve is determined. So this is a plot between the applied load capital F and change in elongation length delta L. So we have two regions, uniform plastic deformation, which takes place before the necking point, and non-uniform plastic deformation, which takes place beyond the necking point. So once after necking starts, it ultimately goes to the fracture point. Before proceeding into the stress-strain relation curve, we will define two parameters, engineering stress and engineering strain. Why they are called as engineering? Because these are practically measured parameters. The stress is usually denoted by the letter sigma and strain by Fn. The capital E, which is written as a subscript, represents the engineering stress and engineering strain. Engineering stress at any point is defined as the ratio of the applied force or the load to the original area A0, whereas strain is defined as the ratio of change in length to the original length L0. So delta L by L0. Strain is nothing but deformation, any changes in the size and shape of the material. Stress is nothing but how much amount of load a material is going to withstand. This is the stress strain curve for low carbon steel. The strain Fn is taken along the x-axis and the stress sigma is taken along the y-axis. For a specimen, if the stress is applied initially, the strain increases linearly to the point capital A, and it's called the limit of proportionality. At this point, Hooke's law is obeyed. The Hooke's law states that the applied stress is directly proportional to the strain. When stress is increased, the strain also increases and reaches the point capital B, and this is called elastic limit. So up to this point OB, the material deforms elastically. That is, when the applied load is removed, the material retraces its path and reaches to the point capital O. With further increase in the stress, the strain increases and reaches the point capital C. This point is called the yield point or yield stress, denoted as sigma capital S. At this point, the plastic deformation begins. So, when the applied load is removed, the material will never retrace path to this original path but take a new path denoted by the dotted lines CO prime. The amount of strain present between the new positions and the old position is called the permanent set or the residual strain. When stress is further increased and it reaches its maximum value, the strain is also maximum at the point capital D. This point is called the ultimate tensile strength, denoted as UTS, and the stress at that point is denoted as sigma UTS. So at this point the necking begins. So necking begins where the plastic instability is attained. On further increase in the stress, the material directly goes to the breaking point capital E, which is called the fracture. The strain measured at that point is called the fracture strain. To recall again the stress strain curve for low carbon steel. The linear region up to OA is called the limit of proportionality where the Hooke's law is obeyed. Here, the applied stress is directly proportional to the strain. The second region OB is called the elastic limit where the material deforms elastically. The slope measured at any point in this region gives the Young's modulus of the material. Slope is nothing but dy by dx, that is the change in strain by change in stress, delta sigma by delta epsilon gives the Young's modulus capital Y. The point C is called the yield strength or yield point denoted by sigma y, and here the plastic deformation begins. The next point, capital D, is the ultimate tensile strength sigma UTS. It measures the maximum stress that the material can withstand. Here, necking of the material begins. The final E point is called the breaking point or the fracture point, where the material breaks and the corresponding strain is called fracture strain epsilon capital F. From the tensile test, the following mechanical properties can be derived. The first is the strength of the material, the ability of the material to resist plastic deformation. It is calculated from the yield stress point sigma y or ultimate tensile strength sigma UTS. So the point capital D and the point capital C tells you the strength of the material. The second is the stiffness of the material, the ability of the material to resist elastic deformation. In the initial linear elastic region OB, the slope at this point, the stress as well as strain gives the Young's modulus capital Y of the material. So in this linear region OB, that is the elastic range, if the slope is calculated dy by dx, that gives the Young's modulus capital Y. The third parameter is the toughness, that is amount of energy absorbed per unit volume up to fracture point. So the entire area occupied under the stress strain plot gives you the toughness of the material. So the area from the 0 to the fracture point E, the area occupied by this range is called gives the toughness of the material, and it's equal to the product of stress and the strain. The last property is the ductility, the ability to undergo plastic deformation. It is calculated from the elongation strain epsilon capital F at the fracture point. So this fracture strain will tells you the ductility of the material. Thank you.